This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Google Drive. In this class, I'll be providing an overview of the very popular and free cloud storage platform known as Google Drive. This is a great cloud storage solution that you can use to back up files, transport files and folders, okay? And it allows you to also take full advantage of the other Google apps so you can save your work. Okay, we're talking about these things in detail as we go through. Now, keep in mind that for a Google Drive account, you do not need a Gmail email account. You need a Google account, which is a bit different. Okay, you can have either one. If you have a Gmail account, that's great. That's all you need. Otherwise, you can create a Google account without creating a separate Gmail. Okay, so many people already have an email they're using. They don't want to create another one. So I'll show you in a few minutes how to create a Google account using a different email address, okay, as your sign in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Google Drive and then I'll jump into the actual program. So Google Drive is a cloud storage solution. It allows you to keep all files in one place and access them from any device. So first of all, if you're not familiar with cloud storage, I'll very briefly just explain. Cloud storage is storage software that allows you to upload your files and folders to a different server. Okay, so it's also called remote storage for that reason. So for example, in this case, Google Drive is basically allowing you to use some space on one of their own servers, okay, one of their own computers, essentially. And you can take files from your computer and you can upload them to Google Drive, either to have them as backup copies, to transport them so you can get to them from another device, okay? And it also allows you to, like I said before, save your work from Google Apps, which again, we'll talk about in a few minutes. Okay, so again, think of it as remote storage. It's not being it's typically we save things to our computer, but this allows you to save it in another place that you can access from anywhere with internet connection, essentially. So we can store files safely and securely in the cloud, okay, in the Google Drive. We can you can access your files from a PC, tablet, or mobile device. Okay, so essentially any device that has internet connection allows you to get to your Google Drive account. So you could be on your computer, you could be on a friend's computer, at the library, on your smartphone, on the go, okay? You can get access to your Google Drive account because again, it's all being done over the internet. You can also very easily share files with other users and you can access files shared with you, okay? Because everything's being done over a live internet connection, it's much more sort of conducive to sharing work back and forth, passing files back and forth, even working on the same files at the same time, okay? And you can upload up to 15 gigabytes of storage for free. So Google Drive, yes, it is free, but up to a certain limit, and that limit is 15 gigabytes. Okay, now that is still quite a bit of space, and we'll talk a little bit more about that space in just 1 second. All right, so consider this. Your drive storage capacity, as we just said, is 15 gigabytes. Now, emails and attachments in a Gmail account count towards that limit, okay? However, files created in Google Docs, Slides, or Sheets do not count towards the limit. Now, if you're not familiar with these apps, that's okay. We'll be doing a Docs class next week and a Sheets class the week after, if you're interested in learning more about them. But these are apps that allow you to create different types of projects, okay, different types of files. And when you create files with them, they do not count towards that limit. Okay, so in case you're unfamiliar, Google Docs is essentially a Microsoft Word equivalent. It's the same type of program. It's a word processing application. Google Slides is a Microsoft PowerPoint equivalent. Google Sheets is a Microsoft Excel equivalent. So essentially you can create the same kind of files and do the same kind of work with just Google Apps, and you don't have to use Microsoft Office at all if you don't want to. Okay, and increased storage is available for a nominal monthly fee. So anything over 15 gigs, you do have to pay for, but it's really not a whole lot of money. It does not break the bank at all. All right, and file compatibility. So nearly all file types and sizes can be uploaded to Google Drive, including PDFs, MP3s, okay, GIF images, zip files, etc. And another really great thing is that Microsoft Office files can be converted to, that should actually say Google format. I'll have to fix that little typo, I apologize. But so for example, a Microsoft Word document can be converted to Google Docs. A Microsoft Excel workbook can be converted to Google Sheets. All right, so and vice versa. So you can upload a Microsoft Office file to Google Drive and use it with a Google app. You can also download a Google file to your computer and access it through one of the Microsoft Office programs. So the Google apps and the Microsoft Office programs essentially are compatible. You can kind of transfer things back and forth and use those files in either program, either Office, either suite, excuse me. Now, when we're using files and folders in Google Drive, okay, you can manage existing files and folders from your computer or other device by uploading to Drive. So you can upload a single file or an entire folder from your computer. Okay, so again, oftentimes we use this for backup copies. If you have very important files and you want to have backups, you can upload them to your Google Drive. It kind of replaces the need for a flash drive, for example. Okay, nowadays we could use cloud storage instead as a backup storage solution. And then in the drive itself, you can organize the files with folders and subfolders. So if you are familiar with managing folders and subfolders in the Windows operating system, for example, or even the Mac operating system, okay, Google Drive uses the same system, organizational system, and you'll have no problem kind of figuring out how to do that in Google Drive. Okay, we still use folders and subfolders just like we do in Windows and on Macs. You can mark individual files or folders as favorites for quick and easy access, and you could delete or download folders from Drive as needed. I got a question here, is it safe to upload your personal files? That's a great question. We didn't really talk about accessing Drive yet, but yes. So your Google Drive account, it's still password protected, okay? It's still private. Just because it's on Google server doesn't mean that anybody can look into it, all right? Everything is still private, it's password protected. It's essentially just, they're just giving you that space for free. And then if you want more, you just have to pay for it. Okay, Google wants you to use Google Drive too, because essentially it's kind of their way of also, I don't want to say forcing you, but sort of influencing you, persuading you to use the Google apps as well. Because remember, Google has a whole lot of different internet-based apps. Google Drive is just one of them. Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Google Forms, Google Maps. All right, all of these different apps are under the Google umbrella. And when you have that Google Drive account, a lot of the work you're saving with those other apps is going to the Google Drive. So Google definitely wants you to use it, even if you're using it for free, because they assume you're going to start using all their other products as well. All right. Now, as I said before, you can very easily share files and folders from Google Drive. So you can provide others with access to files and folders of your choosing. So you can allow others to view, download, or edit files, okay, depending on how much, what kind of permission you give them. Okay, they can view it, they can even edit it like you can. You can collaborate with colleagues on a project, all in real time, by the way, almost like you're working together in the same room, but from completely different computers. You could send a file to a friend or client, and you could share with both Google and non-Google users. Okay, so you don't necessarily need to be a Google user to take advantage of the sharing component of Google Drive. There are limits. Okay, you don't get the full functionality, but you can at least view Google files that are shared with you as a non-Google user. Okay, and Google Drive allows you to very easily search for files and folders. Okay, so you could search by keywords found in the name of a file or from within its contents. You can also use advanced search options to locate a file based on a variety of properties. For example, I'm looking for a file that I know I saved back in 2017, so I can limit my search to 2017, okay, things like that. All right, so let's go ahead and start working with Google Drive. I'm going to put this away. I'm going to make my way over to my internet browser. Because we're using Google Drive, all right, this is a cloud storage solution. It is internet-based, so you can access this through your web browser. Okay, you don't need to download any kind of computer client, and by that I mean a program installed on your computer. Everything we can do with Google Drive, we could do right over the internet through our web browser. So that's really all you need. Now, in my case, I'm using the Google Chrome web browser. Okay, you do not need to use Google Chrome to get access to Google Drive and other Google apps. It is just my preferred browser, so that's the one I'm using. You can access Google Drive from Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Safari on a Mac, okay? Really any web browser. Now, I'm on the google.com website, which is a good, there are different ways to access these Google apps. This is how I do it. I go to google.com, and first thing I do is I sign into my account. So in the upper right-hand corner of the google.com homepage, you will see the big sign in button here where I'm circling. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I should mention here, if you at any time need to zoom in on my screen, go to Meeting, the program we're using for this class. It has a zoom tool. If you bring your mouse pointer over to the right of the window, you'll see a plus sign to zoom in, a minus sign to zoom out. Just keep in mind, if you do zoom in, you won't see my whole screen, so you'll have to click and drag to see everything. Otherwise, you're seeing my full screen in the normal view. All right, so actually, let me get rid of that. I thought I did. There we go. Okay, so when you sign in, by the way, this is essentially what I'm showing you here is not only how to sign in, but also how to create an account if you haven't yet, okay? We're not gonna go through the whole workflow, don't worry. I'm just gonna go over a couple really important points because it's very simple. So from here, I would sign into my Google or Gmail account. If you don't have an account yet and you want to make one, from here, you'll also see create account. All right, if I click on that, I'll select for myself, and then you put in your first name, last name, you create a username, and then a password. However, notice how it's going to create a Gmail account for me. If you don't want a Gmail email account, let's say you already have a Yahoo email, maybe you use you have a Hotmail, okay? Some people still use AOL. All right, you do not have to create a Gmail account. You can instead click on this link that says use my current email address instead. And if you do that, I'll show you what it looks like. Basically, you'll just type in your entire email address. Notice the gmail.com extension is gone. So you could put in username at yahoo.com, for example, if that's your email, and that will be your sign-in for Google Drive and all the other Google apps. So every time you sign in, it's going to be your full email address and then your password. Okay, so that's why I said before, you don't need to create a Gmail account, just a Google account. And then once you click next, you'll have to also enter a phone number. All right. Pretty much nowadays, whenever you're setting up an email account or something else that's using that's internet based, they almost always require a phone number to verify your identity in case of some unauthorized sign-in attempt, or you need to retrieve your password, something like that. Okay, it's your recovery phone number. It could be a cell phone, it could be a landline. It's really up to you. Once you enter that information, you'll then have your Google account and you'll be ready to go. So let me go back to this screen, and I'm going to put in my Google username and then my password, and then I will sign into my account. Now it takes me back to the google.com homepage, but if you look up in the top right corner where it said sign in, now it's the first letter of my username, and that indicates that you have successfully signed into your account. Now that what I just circled, that icon also acts as your main Google account settings access, essentially. Okay, that's not something we're really concerned with for this class, but in case you need to get to your main Google account settings, maybe it's something for your password or other types of controls, you would do that through there. But the icon to the left that looks like 9 dots, this is your gateway to all the Google apps. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Okay, and you'll see a whole bunch of different apps listed, and there's a scroll bar here to scroll down for more options. And when I get to the bottom, I see that there's a link to more from Google for even more apps than what you see here. So Google has a lot of stuff available to you. All right, now I'm going to scroll back up to this first group because that's where the Google Drive access point is. Right here, I'm going to click on it and launch the Google Drive account. All right. So right now we're looking into my Google Drive account, and this is of course a sample account. This isn't the one I use myself in everyday life. This is one I created for this class here. So this is a Google Drive account, and we are looking at a few things here. So let me go over what's on the screen, and then we'll go over some things in more detail. Okay. Let me just see. All right, so let's just start in the main part of the screen here. Let's just jump in right into the drive itself. So what we're looking at in the main part of the screen are our folders, because remember, it's just like the Windows operating system or the Mac operating system. We organize our files into folders, folders that we create. We can add more, we can rename them, we can delete them. Okay, the whole life cycle. All those options are available to us. So we see the folders I have in my Google Drive, and down here where we see that one file, okay, that's just one that I haven't put into a folder yet. So if you upload something to your Google Drive and you do not assign it to a folder right away, it will just get kind of dumped into this main area. And then later on, you could put it into a folder if you decide to, or you could leave it here. It's really up to you. Okay, and then at the top above my folders, these are recent files that I've opened in one of the Google apps. So remember, when you're many of these Google apps, okay, the Google apps that allow you to save your work, save files, everything you're saving is going to the Google Drive here. Okay, even if you are not looking at your Google Drive. Let's say you're using Google Docs, you're typing up a document, it saves. It's being saved to your Google Drive account, even if it's not open. Okay, so this is where everything's going. So think of it like your hard drive on your computer, all right? That's where you typically save things. All right, you might create a document in Microsoft Word, but it's being saved most likely to your hard drive. Same idea here. Google Drive is the file storage space. That's what it is. So these are all different files that I've recently accessed through a Google app, and I can launch them from Google Drive if I want to. All right, and speaking of those, just to show you, we see 4 different icons here. Okay, we'll actually let's just go over here. This is Google Sheets. This is Microsoft Excel. We have Microsoft Word here, and over here we have Google Docs. Okay, so these are all different types of files, all available in my Google Drive, just to show you how versatile this storage platform is. All right, now, and we'll talk more about uploading folders, okay, creating folders and accessing files in a few minutes, but I'm just kind of showing you what you're seeing on this screen right now. Also, you'll see that you can kind of change the way these files are sorted. Okay, where it says last modified, if you want to change it to a different arrangement, you can say last opened or name. So it'll be sorted alphabetically, for example, instead of the folder you used last. That's what it's doing right now. The folder I used last is at the front of the list here. Okay. Also, you could change the entire view using this icon here. Okay, so if you prefer a list view instead of the grid view like this is how the list view will look. It will just arrange everything in a vertical list, and you could scroll down to see everything. Okay, so there's the same 4 folders, but in a vertical list. All right, I'm going to change it back to the grid view, so I'll go up to that icon and click on it to change it back to this. Okay, now, excuse me, to the left of this main section, over here, if you follow my mouse pointer, we have a lot of important stuff here in terms of managing our Google Drive. So first of all, we see the big new button here with the big plus sign. If you're a Gmail user, this might look very familiar. It's the same icon they use for composing a new email, okay? But in this case, it's a new something. We don't know yet. If you click on new, it will give you options. It could be a new folder that you're creating right now in your Google Drive account. Okay, under that, we have our upload options. So file upload, this is how you can upload a file from your computer. So if you have an important document saved on your hard drive, you want to upload it to Google Drive as a backup copy, this is where you go. Okay, similarly, we have folder upload. You can upload an entire folder from your computer to Google Drive as well. Okay, so if you have a folder of, let's say it's a folder of vacation pictures, you want to have access to them on your Google Drive as well, you can upload the entire folder without having to upload each individual picture one at a time. Okay, also from here, we can create a new, remember the word new, that's how this is all linked together here, a new file in Google Docs, a new file in Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Forms, or go to more for more options to create other types of files. And again, anything I create in these apps that are listed will be saved to this Google Drive account automatically. Okay, now underneath new, you essentially have your My Drive. Essentially, this is a expandable and collapsible navigation pane, just like it is in the Windows File Explorer, if you've ever taken a Windows class with me. So if I click on the arrow next to My Drive here, it will show me the folders. The same ones that are listed in the main screen, you can also see them here. And if I had folders inside of those folders, which we would call subfolders, I could expand these and see those as well. Like we see right here, previous class samples, and inside of that is the resumes folder. All right, so just another way to view the folders that are in your drive. Underneath of that is computers. Now this one, really, I can't show you. Essentially, if you start using Google Drive a lot and you want to kind of take it a step further, you can install a Google Drive for desktop program on your actual computer. And every time you save something to a specific folder in your computer, it will also at the same time go to your Google Drive. So it kind of syncs things instantly without you having to do it yourself. And that's what will be handled on their computers there. All right, under shared with me, if something's shared with you, it will show up there. So if somebody shares a file with you, okay, and you click on that, it will narrow all of your files down to those that were shared with you, rather than ones that you created yourself. All right, and that's essentially what we have here. Shared with me and down, these are just kind of filters. All right, recent, if I click on recent, it will show me what was most recently modified. All right, these are all different files that were recently opened and modified. okay? And they're all saved in my Google Drive account. All right, starred here, you are able to, just like you can in Gmail, you can star specific files. Okay, so that basically your favorites, things you use all the time, or maybe even a folder you use all the time, so you can get to it faster. So if you click on starred, it will narrow it down to only those things that are quote unquote starred. Okay, and then we have trash, which is one way we can delete files and folders if we don't need them anymore. All right, so another question here. So whatever we upload to Google Drive won't take Gmail accounts 50 gigabyte storage space. So okay, so like I said, your Gmail account, if you have a Gmail, all right, your emails and attachments in those emails count towards the 15 gigabyte limit. Okay, so it's kind of like a shared storage limit for Google Drive and your email. All right, so emails in a Gmail account and attachments in those emails will count towards that limit. But as I said before, files created with these Google apps, docs, sheets, slides, forms, all right, those do not count against your limit. However, a Microsoft Word document you upload to your drive would count against the limit because it is not a Google file. All right. And in fact, speaking of storage, that's actually a great question. It's good timing. We have our storage meter right here, which indicates how much is currently being used. So for me, it's 5.46 gigs. And if I needed to purchase more, there's the link right there to buy more storage. Excuse me. All right, let me go back to the main drive here. All right, I'm going to be turning off my camera for 1 second. I'm just getting a sip of water, and I'll be right back. I apologize for that, folks. I am back. So we're back to my Google Drive here. Let's just continue looking at the screen, okay, and then we'll kind of see how we can manage our files and folders. So also, in terms of kind of drilling down from your main Google Drive to your specific folders, this is essentially another way to do that, where we see the My Drive with the drop down. Okay, in case you're wondering what that is. A, a, a similar way to access the same things we saw in that new button. Okay. Yeah, and then we can get to new folders, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Now above that, We see a couple of those main Google icons or main Google controls we saw on the google.com website. All right, in many cases, no matter what Google app you're using, you will typically see these two, your Google account access and your Google apps access. So you can kind of go from here to other Google products as needed. All right, it won't close Google Drive. It will just open them in a separate tab in your browser. Next to that, we see the gear icon. Okay, those are your Google Drive settings. All right. This is something I would encourage you to kind of check out on your own, because I don't want to take too much time going through the settings. There really is not too much to go through here. So if you want to just kind of check out what the various settings are for Google Drive, you can just click there and go to settings here. Okay, also from here where it says get Drive for desktop, this is the program I was talking about before that you can install on your computer that will sync the files you're saving on your computer to your Google Drive account automatically. All right, so if you're interested in downloading that, you could click here for Get Drive for Desktop. All right, next to the gear icon, we see the support icon, which gives us that will give you a whole lot of great help and guidance tools for using Google Drive. Also some good training. All right, Google has a lot of great tutorials, video tutorials. All right, things to really help you either troubleshoot or learn more about a specific Google product. Okay, let me skip over the center for a second, all the way to the left. Okay, this is just your Google Drive home button. So if at any time you want to get back to this main screen, you could just click on that and it will take you right back here immediately without having to kind of, click back to get through several pages. Click on that, it will take you right back to this main screen. Now, in the center, we have the search in Drive. This allows us to search for specific files. As you can see, you can search for a specific file by keyword. You can look for all types of files by selecting one of those file formats from this list. So if I want to look up all the PDFs I have saved in my Google Drive, I can click on PDFs and it will filter it down to PDFs. Also, if you go to the right, you'll get to the advanced search tools, okay? So I can look for files owned by me or maybe or specific ones shared with me. I could look for ones in specific folders. If I know it's in a folder, but I just can't find it, I can do that. All right, a number of things. In fact, I will circle back to this a little bit later, just to review what this has. All right, so let's talk about, I'm just trying to think, let's start with, I'm just thinking here. Okay, let's start with saving something from a Google app, and then we're going to talk about uploading from your computer. So just as an example, I'm going to use Google Docs and launch this app. Now, right now, we've switched over to the Google Docs app, so we're at a different screen. If you want to learn more about Google Docs, I encourage you to check out our class next Tuesday night, where I'll cover this specific app. But if you're not familiar, Google Docs is a Microsoft Word equivalent. It essentially does all the same things Word does, except that it's Google, and you can access this for free, as long as you have a Google account and internet access. Okay, I'm not going to get to Google Forms. Someone asked. I don't have any I don't offer any classes on Google Forms, at least not yet. But if you're ever interested, we do offer virtual private sessions in our computer class calendar where I can help get you started. Okay, I can give you a brief run through. All right, so I'm just going to type something in here. We'll say Google Drive practice. And there we go. So that's my document. Now, when we're using a Google app like this, all right, again, this app is internet-based. So everything is being saved to Google Drive automatically. In fact, if you keep your eyes on this part right here where I just drew with that red pen, or if I add something, what's today? Today is February 8th, 22. Okay, notice how it says saved to drive. Okay, so simply by creating this document, even if it was blank, it creates a file and saves it to my Google Drive. Okay, and if you want to, just to kind of show you real quick, if you want to name a file in one of these Google apps, you do it right from here in the app itself. You go up to that box, you type in, call it whatever you want. I'll just keep it the same name as what I typed, that's fine. Google Drive Practice, press enter, and now it's saved under that name. Okay. Now, right now, I'm going back to Google Drive, you'll see that it's now here under Files. And let me actually refresh. Let's see if I'll get that document name to change. There we go, Google Drive Practice, perfect. So there it is in my Google Drive. Remember, that's kind of the main storage area. That's where everything gets dumped unless you specify a folder. All right. So with that said, let me go ahead and create a folder now so I can put it into it. So now we're back in Google Drive. So on the left side, if I go to New, I can select Folder. And we'll say Google Drive class, and I'll click Create. So if I look under my list of folders, that new folder is now available here. Okay, and if I want to save it to that folder, I have a few options. Now, when you right-click on a file, you'll get a number of options, which I'll go over in a minute. Okay, but the fastest way to put it into a folder, at least in the Google Drive itself, is to just click and drag, much like we can do in Windows or a Mac. Simply click on that file thumbnail and drag it and drop it into a folder. And if I double click on that folder to open it, there's the file. Now I'm going to actually put it back into the main drive area. And I did that by clicking on undo, by the way, with my keyboard. So there it is. Because I want to show you that when you're using a Google app, I'm going to go back to Google Docs now. You can also, if you know ahead of time exactly where you want to save it, you can do it from the app itself. All right, so up here where I just circled, okay, there's that little folder with an arrow in it. That's your move icon. That means you can move it to a specific folder. So when I click on it, notice it opens up the folders that are in my Google Drive. And I can click on Google Drive class and then click move. Now if I go back to Google Drive, you'll see that it's once again in the Google Drive class folder. So again, you can move files around into different folders in Google Drive itself. Okay, you can also do it from the Google app you're using ahead of time if you know what folder it needs to go into. And of course, you can always change your mind. You can move these in and out as many times as you need. All right, now let me close Google Docs here. I'm back in Google Drive. There's that Google Drive practice file. Now, if you want to launch a file from Google Drive to begin working on it again, you just double click it. And there I am back in Google Docs again. Very simple. All right, so you can see how seamlessly Google Drive works with the other Google apps that's saved to it. I'm going to close this again. Now I'm going to right click on this file just so we can kind of see how we can manage these files. So when you're using a PC, in case you're unfamiliar with this, whenever you're using a PC, no matter what program you're using, a right click always brings up a menu. So that's what we're seeing here. A right click on the file brings up a menu like this. It gives us a number of options we could use to manage this file. All right, so preview just previews the file. It won't open it. It just kind of lets you look at it for a second in case you want to kind of make sure it is what you think it is or something like that without actually opening it. Okay, open with, well, depending on the file, the file type you're clicking on, you'll get different programs you could open it with. Okay, we have shared. This allows me to share this with other people. We'll cover sharing a little bit later towards the end. Okay, get link, kind of another way of sharing. In fact, it opens up the same dialog box there. So get link is just another way of sharing. Again, we'll cover that a little bit later. Show file location just shows you where it's saved in case for some reason you can't quite make sense of it. Okay, add shortcut to drive. Okay, if you add a shortcut to your drive, basically you can it will be in your main Google Drive where it was initially and in this folder at the same time. Kind of like a shortcut on your desktop if you're used to Windows. So being able to access it from two different locations. In fact, let's just click on it so we can see what that looks like. All right, so I added a shortcut so you can see it's available in the main drive. But notice the little arrow icon over the Google Docs icon. That little arrow there, that indicates a shortcut. So I can access it from there. I can also go into the folder and access it from here. Okay, move to, another way to move files to specific folders. Okay, so clicking this will just bring up your folders, just like we saw before, in case you need to assign it to a new location for any reason. All right, add to starred. This is how we can star this, so that when we click on the star filter on the left, it will show up in that list. Again, typically we use starred for files and folders we use all the time, so we can kind of get to them faster. Okay, rename allows me to rename this. We can rename the file as many times as we need. Okay, view details just basically just gives you some information, whether it was shared, the size of the file, when it was created. And if you toggle over to activity here, you can see basically an entire history of when the file was created and what you did to it, where you put it, when you moved it to a new folder, etc. Okay, make a copy. This allows you to make a copy of this, which can be very handy, especially with sharing. Okay, I'll talk about when we talk about sharing, I'll talk about make a copy, because I often advise people to use both things at the same time. Okay, but this will just create a copy of the same exact file, but it will be a completely separate file in and of itself. Okay, then we have download. Now, this one's important. If I want to download this Google Docs file to my computer and open it in Microsoft Word, okay, because remember these two programs are compatible, Google Docs, Microsoft Word. If I download it, which I'll do right now, you'll see that it downloaded it to my computer. If you look down below there, and if I open it, it's going to open in Microsoft Word like so. So there's the same exact document, but in Microsoft Word. Now, sometimes the two programs, not just Word and Docs, but other Google apps, there might be some formatting issues, okay, but typically everything will look just the same. All right, they're pretty stable in terms of conversion. So now I download it to my computer and I can use it in Microsoft Word if I need to. And then when I'm done, okay, I can upload it again to my Google Drive, maybe delete the old copy in Google Drive, whatever you need to do, because you can download and upload back and forth as many times as you need to. Okay, and then in that right-click menu, the last thing is remove. This is, of course, how we can delete the file if we're done with it. And it will stay in your trash for, I believe, 30 days. Yes, for 30 days, and then after that point, it will be deleted forever. So you have 30 days to take it back out of the trash if you change your mind. In fact, I'll do that right now. I'll right-click on it and click on Restore to put it back into my Google Drive. And it will put it back into the same folder. All right, so let me go back to the main Google Drive screen. And now let's talk about uploading files from our computer. Okay, if you've ever attached a file to an email, for example, it's a very similar process. Okay, we just simply go into our computer, select the file, and move it into Google Drive. So let's do this. Let me go to my Windows File Explorer. So now we're going into my actual computer. We're leaving Google Drive for a second, going into my computer. Into my Windows Documents folder, and in my Windows Documents folder, I have 3 subfolders. Okay. Let's say I'm taking 3 classes: an English class, a history class, and economics class. So I have 3 folders, 3 subfolders in my main documents folder. Okay, and I'm using those to organize my assignments for those 3 classes. So I want to create copies of them in Google Drive, so I have access to them there as well. So I don't have to be on my computer to get to them. I could be at the library, I could be at a friend's house, family member's house, okay, wherever. So there they are. So let me minimize this now, go back to Google Drive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the left side and go to New. And I'm going to go to File Upload. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up the folders in my computer, as you can see. I'm going to go to my main documents folder, click on it, and there are those same 3 files we just looked at: economics, English, and history. So if I double click on economics, or actually let's start with history. There's a file called history essay. I'm going to click on it. You could either double click it or click open after you select it. It's really up to you. Either way, you'll see in the bottom right it says one upload complete, history essay.docx, and there's a green check mark to indicate that it has finished uploading. And if I scroll down, you will see it right here in my main Google Drive. And remember the importance of the icon. In case you are wondering when you're looking at them, this tells me right here, this is a Microsoft Word document. Okay, the icon tells you what kind of file it is. All right, now in a few minutes we'll see what that file looks like, because it is not a Google file. So we'll look at that in a minute. But first, so it's in my Google Drive. Oops, I forgot. I should put it in a more specific folder. So what can I do? I could just create a folder again. I can go over to New. Again, go to Folder, create one called History, maybe History Class. Click Create. All right. And I'll take this, I'll click and drag and drop it into the History Class folder. And now if I double click to open that folder, there's the file. All right, let me go back to the main Google Drive. Oops, there we go. All right, now, let's say I want to also upload that English file, that English document from the English class, okay? So let's do that one, but in this time I'll do it a bit differently. So before we started, we went to the new button in Google Drive to start the process of uploading, but you can kind of do things in the reverse direction as well. If I open my Windows File Explorer, if I minimize or restore down, I shouldn't say minimize, excuse me, restore down my File Explorer window, the thing I'm waving around right now, and I leave the Google Drive behind it, so it's layered, I can actually open up to this English essay, there it is, click and drag and actually drop it into the Google Drive from my File Explorer. Notice how it says copy, and there it is. So so you can either start the upload process here in Google Drive from the new button, or you can open up your Windows File Explorer first, or your Mac folders and files, and actually essentially upload, just drag it and drop it right into Google Drive from the computer program itself. And here it is, by the way, English essay. And then once again, maybe I want to create a folder called English class so I can organize this better. So I'll go to the left, I'll click on new, I'll go to folder, and I will type in English class. I'll click create. And if I come down here, I can click, hold, and drag and drop it into the English class folder. And there it is inside. Okay, now, one more thing I want to show you in terms of moving things from our computer. I'm going to go back to my Windows File Explorer for a second. All right, let me go back here. Okay, so I have one more class folder I did not do anything with yet, which is economics. If I open the economics subfolder, this is in my Windows hard drive, on my computer's hard drive, not on my Google Drive. Remember, two different things here. You'll see I have, in this case, I have two files saved, two Word docs. All right, so a couple things. First of all, let's just pretend I had 10 files, 20 files, and I want to upload all of them to Google Drive. Okay, I don't want to have to do, I mean, I could do them as a batch if you know how to upload a batch of files, but to take this a step further, up until this point, what I've been doing is I've been uploading a file and then creating a new folder for it in Google Drive. Well, why don't I just upload the whole folder so everything's done in one shot? I upload the files and give them a folder all at the same time. So let's go back to Google Drive. If I go to new, instead of going to file upload, I can go to folder upload. Okay, I'll make my way to my main documents folder. I'll select economics and I'll click upload. And it says this will upload all files from economics. It says 2 files. So if it was 10, 20, whatever, it would indicate that here. And then it asks, only do this if you trust the site. I do, because it's my own computer. So I'll click upload. And now, as you can see, there's the folder right there. And if I double click it to open it up, we see both files. All right, let me go back for a second. Now, that one's called economics. The other ones are English class, history class. Maybe I want to call this economics class. So just like we can rename files, we can rename folders. So if I right click on a folder, much like right clicking on a file, you'll get a number of options, many of which are the same, by the way. Okay, because we can share folders, like we can share files. We can add shortcuts to folders, like we can to files. Okay, we can move folders into other folders. So a lot of the same operations you could use to manage a file, you can also do to a folder. And I see right here, rename, so I'll click on it. And I'll call this, I'll just add class, and then click OK. And a really cool thing about Google Drive is the color coding system for folders. All right, so if you wanted to, let's say you have, so in my case, for example, we're pretending I'm taking these 3 classes at school. So I have those, but I also have things for work, previous class samples, Google Docs samples, etc. So maybe I want to kind of compartmentalize them a little better. Okay, so I can color code them. So all my school folders will be red. My work folders, if I right click and go to change color, those will be blue. All right, and I'll just grab these two to be consistent. I think you get the idea though. And there we go. Oops. All right, now real quick, since we have these non-Google files now in our Google Drive, let's go to one of them. Let me go to history class, open this folder, and go to this file. So this is a Word document, which means it's not, if I'm opening it from Google Drive, it's not just going to open, okay, right away, because it's a non-Google file. So if I double click it, actually looks like now it does. It used to give you a preview. Looks like they've made an update. Perfect. So if I double click a Word document in this case, it's going to open it in Google Docs, the equivalent, which is actually pretty cool. All right, and I'll talk about this more in the Google Docs class next week, but you'll notice that next to the file name, it does indicate there as well that this is a Microsoft Word file format. Even though I'm opening it in Google Docs, it's still in the Word format. And again, I'll remind you of this in the Google Docs class, but if I went to File here, you'll see Save as Google Docs, and that would then save this, or essentially convert this to the Google Docs format. All right, but let me just close that. In fact, I want to see one thing real quick. Now that they're opening right away, I want to just see if I can open this. Yep, and this opens as well. So that's Google Sheets. So I'm opening an Excel file in Sheets. All right, interesting, very good. All right, so it looks like if it's an equivalent, it will open in its respective equivalent. So if it's a Word document, it will open in Google Docs. If it's a if it's an Excel workbook, it will open in Google Sheets, etc. Okay. Someone's asking what's the name of the YouTube channel. If you go to our library website, mcl.org, okay, mcl.org, on the homepage, you will see in the upper left-hand corner a YouTube icon that will take you to the YouTube channel, and then go to our computer instruction playlist. All right. Excuse me. I'm going to go back. By the way, I'm going back to the drive. You can do it in a couple ways. I usually use the breadcrumbs here. Okay, you'll notice that as you drill down into different folders and subfolders, it will show you, just like it does in Windows and Macs, that it's essentially a file path or breadcrumbs, whatever you want to call them. It shows you where you started and where you are right now, history class folder. So if I want to go back to the main drive, I can just click on my drive here. Okay, and I did want to show you, all right, here's a good example. So in my Google Drive, this is something that was, by the way, if you create a new Google Drive, I'm not sure if they're still doing this, but this will be there already, a PDF called Getting Started to kind of help you, to guide you through using your Google Drive and other Google apps. All right, so that's something that was Google gave me when I created this new drive, but that's actually a good example because that's a PDF, which is not something I can edit in Google. So in this case, if I double click it to open it, it's not going to open necessarily. It's just going to give me a preview. All right, so typically when you're opening a file that's not able to be edited directly in Google, it will just give you the preview. You can go up and select an app to open it with. It likely will not look so great. Let's see how this converts. I'm curious in Google Docs. See, it's taking a while. Okay, so there's that same PDF, but as you can see, really just, it doesn't match exactly right. There's a lot of formatting issues here. So all that is to say that if you're opening a file that cannot be edited in Google, such as a PDF, you can at least preview it. So you can save them to your Google Drive to have them as backup copies, and you can read them from Google Drive, but you can't necessarily edit them. It all depends on the file type. Okay, and by the way, I should mention that from this preview screen, okay, even though I can only view it, I could still print it. There's the printer icon in the upper right-hand corner. I can also download it to my computer. All right, so if I wanted to download it again to my computer, I could download it using the download icon there. And this is to leave comments, which is something we'll talk about with Google Docs and Sheets later in the month. All right, now, and to go back to the drive, you'll see the back button here, and I'll click on that to go back. All right, and if you wanted to create a subfolder, by that I mean a folder inside of another folder, you simply open the first folder that you want to put it in, and from this screen, let's say I wanted to create an economics macro folder and a microeconomics folder. Okay, I could either go to new from this screen and do it from here like we've been doing, new folder, and it will put it inside of whatever's the last thing listed in my file path. You can also right click on the background and do it from here, new folder. And again, in this case, because I'm inside of the economics class folder, the new folder will be placed inside of this one, thus creating a subfolder. Let me go back to my main Google Drive. All right. Now, remember that you have, first of all, that star filter. Like I said, if you want to star something, that just gives you quicker access to it. So if, for example, I'll go into the English class folder, I could right click on this file, click on add to starred. Let me go back. I can also star a folder. So maybe I'll star the economics class folder. Same method, right click, add to starred. And if I go to the starred filter on the left side here, you will see that they pop up immediately. And this is something else I did in a previous class, so just pretend that's not there essentially. There's the English essay file, and there's the economics class folder. Okay, so if you had a lot of folders and a lot of files, starring them comes in handy because you get to them much faster because it will filter them down to just those. And I'll go back to my main drive by going to the left side to the navigation pane and clicking on My Drive. Okay, let's talk about search and then we'll talk about sharing. So up top you have your search tool that we kind of talked about this before. We could search for specific files by keyword, okay, or folders. We can browse by file type, and you can also go down to more search tools here or click on the icon here. Either one takes you to the same thing, which is your advanced search. Okay. One moment here while I just get a sip of water, and then we'll continue. All right. So basically, the advanced search allows you to basically specify your search, add criteria to narrow it down. So once again, you could search by type, which we just saw before. You can search by um, if it's owned by you or shared with you. Okay. The approvals. This is something that you need to. I don't think this is already available in your settings. You can add in the admin console in your settings. You can uh, essentially enable a process that allows for approval. So when you share your work with people, you can actually kind of submit it for approval. So if somebody sends something to you that's supposed to be approved by you, you can click on awaiting my approval and it will filter your files down to those that are awaiting approval. So you can see only those. And then vice versa, if you send a file to somebody or you share it and you want them to approve it, you can change it to requested by me. All right. Under that, we have date modified. So this is helpful if you want to, if you're searching, like I said before, you know the file you need, you're pretty sure you saved it in 2017, maybe 2018. All right. So you could select from one of these built-in options today, yesterday, last 7 days, etc. You can go to custom otherwise. And I could say between, let's say January 1st of, can I change the year here? Let's just say, we'll just pretend, we'll just say 2021. All right, we'll say May 1st, 2021, and November 1st, 2021. And then I can go to item name, type in a keyword. It doesn't have to be the exact file name, it just has to match it partly. Okay, and I could even search by what's in the file. Okay, so if I know it was something about, again, economics or something specific, okay, I could type in those words that I know is in the actual file itself. Okay, if I know I shared it with somebody, I could type in who I shared it with. So you can kind of apply as many criteria as you need. One thing, several things to narrow it down so you can search more efficiently and find the thing you need. All right. Let me click the X here to close that. Now, if anybody has any questions, remember you could submit them to the GoToMeeting chat. I covered just about everything here. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of ground to cover Google Drive. It is a basic file storage platform. So if you're used to doing it in Windows or Mac, this is not reinventing the wheel. It's a lot of the same stuff. I think the trickiest part is uploading, okay, kind of moving something from your computer to Google Drive and potentially downloading as well. Okay, and by the way, if I didn't cover downloading enough, let me open real quick a Google. Oh no, I did do the Google Doc, and I think you saw that worked. All right, so I'll do it again though, just to review how to download something to your computer from Google Drive. So instead of uploading to Google Drive, you can download it to your computer. All right, so before I did it from Google Drive itself, I right-clicked and went to download. If let's say this was open in Google Docs, I could do it from here as well. I can go to File, Download, okay, and I can download it as a Microsoft Word document and save it on my computer and open it and edit it in Word. Okay, you can also download it as other types of file formats, which is kind of another freedom you get if you open it from the actual Google app itself. So, for example, PDFs. All right, if you create a resume in Google Docs, but you need to send it to the potential employer as a PDF, which is often the case, you can download it as a PDF here. And then you'll have that file saved as a PDF on your computer, and then you can email it to somebody else. Again, and I see that option if I open the actual file and go to the Google app, in this case, Google Docs. All right, now one last thing, let's talk about sharing, and then we're gonna wrap this up. All right, so like I said, when we use Google Drive and really the other Google apps, because they're all internet-based, they're all over a live connection, we can share our work very easily. They're designed for this. We can share it, we can even collaborate in real time. So let me go back to my main drive. Let's kind of start from scratch so we understand the whole workflow here. Okay. I want to share my history class essay with other users. So from here, first I need to make my way to that file. So I'll go down to my folders, I'll double click the history class folder and open it up. There's the file right there. Okay, now the only thing is it's a Word document. So I should probably save it as a Google Doc so that I can share it with people in Google. They can all work on it without any formatting issues. So let me open the file real quick. I'll double click it. All right, we're kind of connecting everything right now. Now it's open in Google Docs, but as I mentioned before, it's still in the Word format. Notice it says .docx up here. So I showed you how to do this. If I go to File and I go to Save as Google Docs, I'll click on it, and it will make a new, it will copy that file, but in the Google Docs format. So now it says History Essay, but there's no more .docx, which means that this is in the actual Google Docs format. All right, so now I can just, now let me take this one step further. I want to make sure it's in the history class folder in my Google Drive. So in this app, I can go up to the move icon here. Remember, I could also do it from Google Drive itself, but I may as well just do it right from this app. There's the move icon. Okay, and it looks like it did in fact save it to the same folder as the other file. So that's good. So I don't have to actually move it into the history class folder at all. It's already there. Okay, because if you look at it, it does say history class. There's the folder name here, and underneath it shows me history essay. Okay, with the Google Docs icon. And underneath is history essay.docx, which is in the Word format. There's the W indicating Microsoft Word. So that's set. If it wasn't, remember, if I wanted to put it in a different folder, I could click on the back button here and select a different folder from my drive. And then select move here to put it into that folder. Okay, so now I can, let's go ahead and close Google Docs. Go back to my Google Drive. We'll go back to square one. We'll make our way to the history class folder. And here's the Google Docs file. I know because of the icon. Now I want to share that with other people. So I'm going to right click it and go to share. Okay, so when we share a Google file like this, okay, you can share basically in two different ways, and you can combine these two sharing methods. So let's talk about method one. We see two boxes. Okay, the top box here, can I click yes? Okay, we're going to start there. This is one way to share. So you'll see share with people and groups. So I click into that and I can add people, and typically you do that by their email address. Okay, but if they're saved to like your Google Contacts, which is a different app, you can just type in their name and they'll still show up. It all depends on how they're saved. Okay, but just to be sure, I'll put in an email address. Let's use, I'm just trying to think of a good example here. All right, so I'm sharing it with that person. I typed in their email address, I press enter, and if I wanted to share it with more people, I would just continue entering their email address, press enter between each to add them to the list, to add them to the group. Once that's set, you then decide what kind of permission you want to give them with this specific file where it says editor. If I click on that, you'll see three different permissions, three different levels of access. A viewer can only view the file. They can't do anything else to it, only read it. or review it. A commenter can view it and they can leave comments, but they can't actually make any edits. An editor can do everything. So basically, they can do whatever you can do as the creator. They can change things. They can save it to their own drive. Okay, all sorts of things. Basically, all the things you can do as a creator of this file. You give them full control. Okay, and in terms of collaboration, if you want to if you want to work with people, okay, from other computers all at the same time, you want people to be able to edit, make changes, whatever, you're going to want to make them all editors so you can collaborate equally. Okay, good question. So if you send it to somebody and they're an editor, can they delete it? So yeah, it won't be deleted from your drive, okay, but you do still want to take a precaution in terms of changes to that file. We'll talk about that in a second. I often recommend making a copy before you share, and I will talk about that in a second. Okay, so we've established who we're sharing it with. We've established their level of access or permission. Underneath, you can also give them a message. You don't have to, but you can. So everything you see here is going to be sent to them as an email. Okay, so if you want to put a message into that email, I'll type in check this out and edit as you see fit. Check this out and edit as you see fit. Okay, there's my message. And then you'll see down here, that's the actual attachment to the email. That's the actual file, which means in most cases, in order for the group, okay, the people you send it to, for them to get back to this file to look at it again, let's say they open it up today, they review it, they want to look at it again tomorrow. To get back to it again, they have to open up their email and get to that link. You can also send them a direct link, which is kind of makes it easier to get back to it. And I'm going to show you that right now. So let me click cancel for a second here. Oh, and by the way, if you were going to do it this way, you would just click send, and then it's off to those recipients. But let me click cancel for a second and go down to the next box where it says get link. Excuse me. All right. So, a great question. Can the person I share this file with share it with somebody else? I'm actually getting to that right now. So, so we have the get link option, which is kind of doing a couple things. First of all, it allows you to share your document as a link instead of as an embedded attachment in the email. So right now, as a default, for kind of security reasons, it's going to be restricted. Only people added can open with this link, which means only the people in this group up here can open that or access that link. So even if you're, in fact, let me show you the link first and then I'll explain. So if that's the case, I want to restrict it. I would click copy link here. Now it's pasted to my clipboard. Now if I go back up here, in that message box, I could, if you know how to paste, you could right click and go to paste. Okay, there's the link. So I could send them the link in the email. And the beauty of this is that they can then copy and paste this right into their web browser. So they can just get to it from their browser whenever they need to, rather than having to go back into their email. Okay, and you don't have to send it through this centralized email box, by the way, the link. You could share the link with them however you want. You could send it to them from a different email, all right, because it's just a link. But basically, what I'm showing you is that you can combine the two methods, the embedded email tool and the link itself. Now, as a restricted link, let's say I had 5 people in this group, only those people can access the link. If somebody in the group then sends the link to somebody else, okay, that third party, they're going to get access denied. The link won't work because they're not in the group that I authorized. Okay, that's how restricted works. However, if I want to allow people to share it with other people outside of my initial group that I created, I could go down and change it to change to anyone with the link. So let me click on that. And now this is how it looks. Anyone with the link. Okay, and once again, if I choose this option, I need to set up permissions, levels of access for those outside people. They could be viewers, commenters, or editors. Okay, so, and then you would copy the link and send it however you want to send it. Okay, and this, by the way, if you want to share work with non-Google users, okay, and you want them to be able to use the file, you need to use the link option and change it to anyone with the link. Okay. Excuse me. So, like for example, for my Google Docs class, what I do is I send out, every student gets their own Google Doc, their own copy. But if it's a non-Google user, okay, they're not going to be able to save it because they don't have a Google Drive account. But they can at least they can add to the file, they can change the file, okay, but it's all being saved to me. But if I want to share that with them, that copy, their copy, I have to do it this way, as a link, and I have to specify anyone with the link because they are a non-Google user. They have neither a Gmail account nor a Google account. Okay, now keep in mind, like I said, if you're allowing it to be sent out to those outside parties, just be careful with the permissions. Okay. I would say that one place I've seen this used, anyone with the link, I've seen it used in a viewer with a viewer permission. So for example, if you've ever gone to a website and you click on one of the links on the website, maybe it says like review our rules and procedures, something like that. And what it does when you click on the link is it actually opens up a document in a Google file. Okay. How are they doing that? Because that Google file is accessible through a link open to anyone. Okay. But they only have viewer permissions, so they can view it on their website, but they can't do anything else to it. All right, so in other words, they've taken this link and they've essentially built it into their website so that when you click on it, you can view that Google Doc hosted on their own Google Drive account, but you can't make any changes because you are only a viewer. Now let me click done here for a second. And one more thing to consider before you share a file, remember that if you right click, you'll also see make a copy. So what in the few times that I've done this, before I share it, I make a copy of it. And you'll see that it puts that copy in the same folder, unless you specify otherwise. I could still move this to a different folder if I want, but I'll leave it right here. And it just says copy of history essay. Okay, I can rename it if I want to something else by right clicking and going to rename, but I'll just leave it as is. So by doing this, I can keep sort of my original version without any changes, and then share a different version that other people can make edits to, leave comments on. That way, if I want to just be able to compare and contrast, okay, or for some reason I'm just very, I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen to the document for any reason, I have my own copy saved that's private only to me, and then the copy that I share with others. So I can kind of do both things at the same time, have my version and have the revised version that everybody collaborated on. All right, and if I encourage you, check out maybe a video on collaborating, because it's pretty cool, because if everybody's editors, you can actually see who's making what changes in real time. It will actually tell you. It will look like you're making the changes, but somebody else is. Okay, and it will tell you who's making the change. You can leave comments for each other with your username. So it's really like you're working with people in the same room, except you're all on different computers. All right, now to go back to my drive, I'll go here. All right, and if I decided I was done with those folders, I didn't need them anymore, okay, I could delete them. You could do that either by right-clicking on the folder. I'll do economics here and selecting remove. You can also do the click and drag method. So if I go to English class folder, I can click, drag, and drop it into the trash on the left. You can also select the folder and press delete on your keyboard. Any three of those methods will do the same thing. And by the way, the same thing applies to individual files. You could delete them the same way. Now, if I go to my trash, there are the three folders. Remember, they're still there. If you want to put them back into your drive, like you change your mind, just right-click and select restore. If you are absolutely sure you want to get rid of them forever, you can right-click and select delete forever, or you could just wait the 30 days and they'll be deleted automatically forever. All right, so that wraps up my discussion for Google Drive today. If you have any other questions, please direct them to the GoToMeeting chat tool. Click on the chat bubble, select organizer only from the list at the bottom, and then type in your question and then hit send. Okay, but some of the big takeaways here. Remember, you do not need a Gmail account to create a Google Drive account. You just need a Google account, which can be linked to an existing email address, which I covered at the beginning of class, how to do that. Okay, and then once that drive is created, as long as you have some experience managing files and folders in Windows or a Mac, Google Drive is not going to be too difficult, okay, because it's a lot of the same, the organizational system is the same, files and folders, subfolders, and even the methods in which we manage these things, move things around, create new folders, right-clicking, all right, a lot of the same things we use on PCs and in some cases Macs, all right. So it operates and behaves very similarly to those operating systems, Macs and Windows. And also remember the compatibility. All right, Google Drive is your file storage for what you create in other Google apps. And those Google apps often have equivalents with Microsoft Office. Okay, and you can upload files from your computer to Google Drive as well. So it doesn't have to be a Google file. It could be an Office file. It could be a PDF, a picture, an MP3. Okay, you can save virtually anything to Google Drive, either as a backup or your sole copy, however you want to use Drive. All right, and then when I'm done for the day, just to be safe, you can always sign out by going back to your Google icon here with your first letter of your username, where I just circled. Clicking on it and selecting sign out here. You're welcome. I got to thank you. You're welcome. All right, so thank you for coming to Google Drive tonight. The next class on our Google series next Tuesday night is Google Docs. So we'll do a deeper dive into Google Docs, how we can create, format, and edit a document. All right, next Tuesday, February 15th at 5:30. So once you create that Google account, you could use Google apps such as Google Docs, not just Google Drive. Remember that this was recorded and will be available on our library's YouTube channel. Just visit mcl.org, our library website. In the upper left-hand corner, you will see our social media toolbar where you'll see the YouTube icon. Click on it. That will take you to our YouTube channel, and from there, select the computer instruction playlist. Let me get past that. And as always, we hope you sign up for some more classes. All right, you can sign up for more classes either if you go to our website and go to the events dropdown for the main events calendar, or you can go to services and then select technology instruction. You can also register from there. Either way, it works. It's pretty much the same. Okay, the only benefit to this option is that you'll see only the computer classes, no other events. Okay, but it's good to check out the main events calendar anyway, because you should explore the other great programs we have going on here at the library. Excuse me. All right, and all classes and other events will be virtual only until, hopefully, Monday, February 14th, where we have some in-person options available again. All right, and remember, as I mentioned earlier, someone asked about Google Forms, for example. All right, we do have those virtual private sessions we offer on select Fridays. All right, on select Fridays each month, we do our private sessions where we work with just you individually on a computer project you might need some help with. Okay, keep in mind these are not set up these are not standing tutoring services. They're really meant for a computer project that you started, you hit a roadblock, you need some advice. Okay, or maybe you have a device you need some troubleshooting tips for. We can often help you with that as well. All right, so these are on select Fridays between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And you'll see those in the same computer class calendar. Okay, just keep in mind they are virtual only, at least for now. If you have any other questions about our technology instruction program, what you've learned tonight, registration, anything, you can always send us an email to techclass@mcl.org. All right, at this time, if you have no further questions, you can click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of the GoToMeeting window and then select Leave Meeting. If you are leaving, thanks so much for coming tonight, and we hope to see you again very soon. Take care.